Hi everyone, welcome to the hands-on session day 2. So these hands-on sessions are meant to deep dive, it contain a detailed demo of the implementation of each of the scenarios that we have been looking in the regular sessions. So Tim has demonstrated how to build a basic journey along with Maggie last session. And today's session is a continuation to that. Tim is going to continue creating the journeys and then the data extension entry using that as the entry source. And if you haven't registered to the fundamentals and the deep dive sessions, so these are the deep dive sessions that are being planned. These are upcoming starting September 9th. And we are progressing on the fundamental sessions. We have completed till the 4th session in the fundamentals, and we'll have 4 more sessions, and after that the deep dive series will continue. Make sure that you register to all the sessions on the Phoenix user group, and once you join this group you will see all the notifications coming in for each of the event created. Make sure that you have registered to each and every event, and the recordings of all these sessions will be posted on the YouTube channel MC Learning Camp, and you can find the sessions, the fundamentals, deep dives, and the hands-ons as a separate playlist. Under the playlist session, you can find all those things. And let's continue the hands-on series with today's session, number 2. Tim, please take it over.
Thank you, JV. Let me share my screen. And so I was able to share a minute ago, but now it says I'm not able to.
Okay, let me quickly fix that. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Should be all good. Should I give permission to Maggie as well?
It would be for Jatin. He's going to be our builder today.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
All set.
All right, perfect. All right, so like JB said, this is our second of our hands-on building session. We're going to continue to build out that lead, nurture, journeys, actually. We're going to build a second journey today. For those who missed the first session, the use case is that we're working with sales. They're noticing that they're not getting the conversion that they'd like on the lead. So we want to build a lead nurture journey, an automated journey that nurtures those leads, keeps them warm, and feeds them up to sales. This is the flow diagram for the journey that Maggie built the shell out last session. We are pulling in those leads from the Salesforce CRM environment. Jatin, our builder today, will be working in both the Salesforce CRM environment and in Marketing Cloud. Once they come into the journey, we're going to send them down 3 separate paths, the hot, warm, and cold path, and do specific activities on each of those paths. We're going to be creating and updating records in the Salesforce CRM environment, sending a variety of different emails. On the cold path, we're going to be determining using a decision split to check their status before they get sent that multiple email. And then if we get to it, today might be the next session, we're going to be personalizing those emails in 4 different ways. Your basic greeting, we're going to have variable content, a custom call to action, and then a dynamic signature panel from the sales rep itself. So where did we leave off from last session? Maggie created that amazing journey shell for the first journey. We built that query that's going to pull in those leads from the Salesforce CRM environment as well as the data extension itself. And then we had created some leads in the Salesforce CRM environment to use for our use case. So today we've got quite a bit of a list to do, so we'll tackle as much as we can get through it. But just some of the key things we're going to be working on the journey side is we're going to be modifying that SQL query just for slight tweaks and get that ready for our journey. We're going to update the data extension as well. We're going to connect that to the automation. So we'll be able to make that connection to the journey. And then we're going to start filling out the activities that Maggie had laid down in the journey itself. The decision split, we're going to be doing those object activities that if you had attended Michelle's sessions yesterday, we're going to be creating that task, updating that lead record, creating an engagement split, And then creating that separate journey that's going to be sending that hot lead notification to sales. And then we should be able to send subscribers through end to end through both journeys. That'll be the goal for today. On the Salesforce CRM side, we're going to be modifying some leads to a non-open status to test that functionality. We're going to be determining required object fields as we're going to be creating that task object. We need to sync that with the Salesforce CRM environment and then doing some testing. We may not get into the content, but this is a list of the content work that we're going to be doing to aligning our content to both journeys so it can be personalized on that end. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to welcome in Jatin. And Jatin, do you want to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background on your experience in Marketing Cloud in Salesforce?
Yeah, sure. I work for an organization with specialization in marketing for a lot of different departments, a lot of different OEMs, and we do lifecycle marketing. I've been working with a lot of different environments, started from Unica and SIM, and now making my way through this Salesforce. I've been on and off on Salesforce for the last 1 year, so that's why I'm interested to learn more about it and hence volunteered for the class today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for volunteering. Looking forward to seeing you build. Do you want to try sharing your screen?
Sure.
Let's see if that works. Fantastic. All right. So you've got the Salesforce CRM environment stood up and you've got Marketing Cloud as well. Okay, so we're going to navigate and open up the assets that Maggie had created in the Marketing Cloud environment. So if we go back to Marketing Cloud, first we'll go to the journey itself. So if we go into Journey Builder, yeah. And I believe if you go under last modified over there on the right, we can navigate in Journey Builder to find the most recently updated, created journey. It's one way to go about it. You can also look in the folder structure. So that would be Test Lead Nurture, which is the fourth one down, is the journey that Maggie had created. So we'll click into there. And so this is that flow diagram that we just looked at. We've got all three of those paths, well, two of those paths set up today. So we're going to be going in and editing that once we have the query and the automation stood up. And then, Jatin, if you can duplicate this tab, we're going to go to the query that we had set up and the data extension. So if you, we duplicate that tab. And we're going to navigate to Automation Studio on this. And And then in the Activities tab up at the top, we're going to go under SQL Query down there at the bottom. And I think if you go under Hands-On, I think we might have saved it under Journey Builder Bootcamp. And there's the query that Maggie had created. And then let's duplicate one more tab. We're going to go to the data extension that this is writing to that is in our journey. Well, we actually haven't selected it yet, and that is going to be under, if you go to the blue cloud there on the left, we're going to go under Email Studio. Depending on which way you'd like to go about it, you can go through Contact Builder. I kind of like using Email Studio when the records are small, just because it's easy to refresh. So if you hit the subscriber tab up there, and under data extension, the regular data extensions, we're going to be, it's the fifth one down. Perfect. And then if you open up the little plus sign to the left of your data extension folder, and then under Hands-On, and then it should be the Journey Builder Bootcamp. And this data, it is the Test Lead Nurture DE. Right. Fantastic. Okay, and so let's just take a quick look at these records. I think we had run this. I think we might have run this again since the last time. I think we had added you as a subscriber, Jatin, we've got you added in there, and so that you can actually enter the journey. We've also got Maggie in there as well. Just some things to note that predictive score, we now have a hot, warm, and cold ranking. So it's going to create the 3 different paths in the journey. That'll be helpful to see. And one of the things that we wanted to do, make a modification to this, is that as we're going to be creating the task for the salesperson for this, we'd like to also include the company name of the lead itself. So we wanted to see if we could modify the query to include the company in this data extension. So let's go to the query itself, and let's go into the, let's actually copy this query. Kind of like whenever you're making changes to a query, it's kind of nice to go into Query Studio first. So we'll copy that. Let's duplicate this tab. We'll keep this open because we're going to come back to this. Yeah, we're going to go into Query Studio. For those who haven't used Query Studio, it's a super handy tool to play around in to validate your queries. Yep, you know exactly where it is. Awesome. And let's paste that in there. And so we want to pull in the company field from Salesforce CRM. So again, we're going to go in, from the lead Salesforce. Let's go into Salesforce CRM. And we're going to go, we did this similarly in the last session. So
the company name.
Amazing. That's super cool. I actually didn't use that. So over there in the Object Explorer, look how handy that is. Jatin, can you explain what you're just doing here? That's very handy. Never used that part of it.
Because there are multiple attributes within the data extension, and we don't, excuse me, and we don't know, like the select star function does not work, right? So we don't know how many attributes are there within that data extension. So this Explorer, you just paste in your data extension, it tells you like what attributes are there, and you can just pick in which one you want and bring it here.
That is super handy. So you just highlight the object, and then it shows you.
Yeah, you just not the highlight. You just have to copy it here and paste it here.
And you pasted it in?
Yeah, and then just
amazing.
Search it. It brings the
super handy. That is incredibly handy. Typically, what I'll do is I'll open up the synchronized data extension for lead and then look for it. But this makes it super easy. And then just to walk through, that's fantastic. So it looks like it's going to be company. Yes, so let's copy that. And let's just, awesome, we'll just add it to the, awesome, fantastic. And then, Jatin, if you can update the day range to -10, because Maggie and my lead was created a while back. Also, for this use case, what we're going to do is we're going to modify one of the leads statuses to not open. So let's take out that filter on line 14. We're going to just validate that functionality, but we don't want to prevent them from coming in. Awesome. So if we delete that, and then when you run it again. So while we're waiting for this to populate, let's go into Salesforce and let's go find your lead. So if you search for, I guess in the top, you search for your name in the search bar. Yeah. Cool. Let's go into your lead, and we're going to change your lead status to something that's not open. We'll check. I think it's a pick list. So if you go to the details tab.
Where's the detail tab?
Sorry, right under, yep, there you go. And let's change it from open so that lead status is the field on the top right. Yeah. And we're going to change that to contact or qualify. Yep, that's perfect. Contact is great. Fantastic. So we're going to use this example. So if you hit save down there in that blue button, perfect. So we're going to use this use case of how we're gonna use this to, yeah, if you go back to the leads tab, yeah, this is our sandbox, so it's sort of a work in progress. What we're gonna do is to demonstrate the Journey Builder, data being stale. We're going to utilize the lead status for Jatin's record in the journey, but we're going to be referencing the lead synchronized data extension in Journey Builder. So we're going to use, it's going to be able to validate the journey decision split that we've set up earlier. Okay, excellent. So let's go back into Journey Builder. Let's go back to that automation, the Query Studio. Let's take a look at those records that are outputting. Perfect. So we've got those 3 records. We're now seeing the companies that are updated. Fantastic. Yep, let's copy that. We're going to go back into the query. We'll update that. You might have to hit the pencil. It is kind of deceiving. Yep. Yep. And then we're going to need to update the data extension before you hit next. So let's go to the data extension, and Jatin will want to go to your data extension tab. You can leave this as it is, and let's go to the tab to the right. Yep. And let's go to the properties. Yep. And then, let's go back to records real quick. Let's clear out these records just for now. So if you clear data, we're going to repopulate that. Yeah. And let's go to properties, and we're going to add an edit fields. We're going to add a new field over there on the right. Yep. And then hit the plus sign down there at the bottom, to the right. Yeah. And then we're going to use the company name. Company, yeah. And let's use that at 150. Sometimes those company names can be long. And we'll say that that's nullable. That's not required. It typically will be in our data set, but sometimes that's helpful. Let's hit save. Sometimes it takes a second. I think we can go back to the query now. That's probably doing its own thing. We can go back to the query, and you've got the data extension selected, so you should be all set. If you hit next on that, on the bottom right-hand corner in the blue, yeah, Maggie had set it up to select that data extension, so you should be good there. Yeah. And yep, that all looks good. So we'll hit finish. And now let's create the automation that this query is going to live in. And but yeah, let's copy the name of this data extension, just because we'll probably name the automation the same, or the name of the the name of the query. Yeah. And then let's I think we can use this tab. We probably don't need to come back to this. So if you go to the overview of that Automation Studio. Yep. And then let's go into the hands-on folder. We might not have a Journey Builder Bootcamp folder set up here. Yeah, if we go to hands-on. Oh, we do. Cool. There. And oh, we already do have an automation set up, so let's click into that. I think Maggie had set that up as well. Awesome. And I think we had run it a couple of times. We were using this to run our data. So if you hit the Activity tab. Perfect. So let's pause this automation. And let's just run once over there on the upper right-hand corner. We're just going to run this to populate the data. And you can select that box, or you can select Run All Activities. Perfect. Yeah, and then you can hit Run Now. All right, that should populate our data extension. So now that we have this full data set, now we can go to the journey and we can build out those the functions that Maggie had set up for us. Yeah, so let's click on the data extension entry event and let's select the data extension. And I think if you, yep, you could search under that. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you go to the data extension, yeah. Yep, hands on. Yep, perfect. We won't need to filter any contacts, so that all looks good. Okay, excellent. And then one thing, let's go back to the automation. And let's just check the activity tab to see if that had just run. And it looks like it did run, so that all looks good. Let's go back to the activity, the workflow activity tab on that in the automation. So if you go back, yeah, sorry, that, yeah, perfect. Let's activate this journey. Okay, excellent. Let's go back to Journey Builder. We wanted to activate it because now we're going to set the entry. So if you hit the schedule under that data extension, and let's click on the automation part of that. Yep. Hit select. And we're going to hit set schedule. And let's click on that automation, one we just saw that's running. And then if you hit the contact evaluation, this is where we're going to want to usually do evaluate new records only. So if you select that, and then let's do that only new records after journey activation. Perfect. Let's hit summary. Done. Let's hit save. Perfect. Now we can go back to the automation, and let's just pause that for now. Because I think it's running every hour. Okay, cool. All right, let's go back to the journey. Now we can configure the decision split. So let's click into that decision split. So this is where we want to create a hot, warm, and cold path. So if you want to, on the left, Justin, if you want to change that path one name to, let's call it hot path. Perfect. Let's click on the edit button. Now we need to determine first of all, the data source that's going to determine this. This is going to be data that's going to be coming from the journey itself. So we're going to select the journey data extension. So we're going to select journey data. We're going to click into that data extension. And then just for reference, if you can go to the data extension itself, let's take a look at the data. We're going to want to determine the field in the data extension that's going to determine the hot, warm, or cold path. So if you go, yep, predictive score, perfect. So yeah, we're just going to pull that over. We're going to click on that pencil. And since this, yeah, we'll take a look at the data value in the query. So it looks like it's hot, just the word hot. Perfect. Awesome. That's done. And then we can hit summary on that. That's all we need. It's a relatively simple decision split on that path. We're going to add another path. We'll do the same for warm. Awesome. And I kind of like how you set that up. We've got a remainder path, right? So you could just have, yeah, let's hit done, and then I think that'll reconfigure everything. I like the way you did that, Jatin, because the remainder helps with your data validation, right? If you had a lead that came through that did not have a status, that might be a requirement, and you could send that person out of the journey at that point. So nicely done there. Okay, and that's a relatively simple decision split. When we go down to the second decision split, it's going to be a little more complicated. So, okay, and so just some questions out there. Why are we selecting journey data for the contact? Initially should be the contact data, right? DB, that's a great question. When we set up the second decision split, we are going to be using the contact data, and we'll cover the difference there. Great question. Okay, so we've got our 4 paths, and you can see the decision split sort of moves some of those paths in different places, but that's fine. We know the hot path is in a pretty good place. When you enter the hot path, we're going to be creating a task, we're going to be creating a lead. The warm path is going to serve up an email, and if they engage on that email, they're going to be fed up to or brought up to the hot path. So for right now on that warm path, let's just change that wait step to 1 minute instead of 1 day. As we're testing, kind of handy to to change that, so you don't have to, if you're testing records through a bunch of times, you don't have to wait a day for them to come out again. Perfect. And then the cold path, yep, let's change that to 1 minute. Perfect. And then the cold path, we're going to want to move the remainder items up to that cold path. So let's see if we can move that lead source open decision split. See if we can move that up to the cold path. Yep, let's move the email too. That's perfect. Yep. And then let's move that decision split. We can leave that. That's okay. You can leave that there. Let's see if we can move that decision split up. Awesome. Very good. And then you can delete that wait step. Well, leave that for right now, but let's change that to 1 minute. Well, perfect. Okay, let's set up our second decision split. So this is the cold path is your traditional lead nurture journey. They're going to be fed a bunch of different communications over time. But before each communication, we want to check the status of that lead. And if they're in an open status, we want to keep communicating with them. If they have a status that's different than open, we're going to want to exit them from the journey. So let's click into that decision split. And let's change, yep, okay, so perfect. Okay, so for this example, we want to check in Salesforce CRM, not in the journey data, to see if that status is open. So if we go back to the journey, 1 sec. Yep. Perfect. Now this example, we're going to use contact data. So if we go into contact data. Now, just to give perspective on this, Jatin, if you go to, let's go to your Query Studio tab. I don't think we need that Query Studio tab for a second. And if you go to the blue cloud in the upper left-hand corner, and if you go over to Audience Builder, and you go to Contact Builder, okay, this is the contact data you see in Journey Builder, right? These are all of your custom attributes that you're able to access in that menu, right? Most of these are going to be created from, you're creating your own custom attributes. We'll cover that in another session. The most important, most often used one is that exact one, that 312 attributes. It's going to be different for each one if you click into that. That is the synchronized data extension custom attribute that gets created when you have the Marketing Cloud connector. Each time you add a synchronized data extension to your environment, it creates a different tree, right? So you can choose either the contact, the lead, or the user, those 3 separate IDs, and connect all those objects. So if you click on the lead ID, this use case is going to be lead-based. And you can see that direct relationship between the lead contact key on the left to the lead synchronized data extension. So in our use case, it's a one-to-one relationship. And then, Jatin, if you click on that little link between, I think if you click on that, it will show you the relationship. It's not letting you.
Nope, it's
okay. That's interesting. Okay, what that will usually display is the link. There we go. The link between those two data sets. This is something to be mindful of as you're using this functionality in Journey Builder. So what the link is on the left is the contact key, the lead ID on the left, and it's linking to ID, the lead ID in that data extension. So you've got a one-to-one relationship of that lead and the ID connection. As you move over to the right, as those synchronized data extensions get matched, there's a good example. That is the ID from the lead, and it's connecting to the who ID on the task. As you move over to the right, that who ID, if you need to connect from the task to another object, if you're not connecting the lead ID all the way over to the right, then you're going to get a break in your data. And that's when you're going to need to do a custom attribute to make that relationship across the board. It's a little bit complex scenario right there. For our use case, it's very simple, but I just wanted to point out that relationship. You can't just drop this in and go all the way over to the right based on that lead ID. You sort of sometimes have to flatten the data. But anyways, thank you, Jatin, for taking a look at that. Let's go back into Journey Builder. We're going to want to select this attribute and find that lead ID synchronized data extension. So it's that Marketing Cloud API user MC demo. It's a little bit of a long name there. And see that now there's those three paths, right? The contact, the user, right? So we're going to select lead. And then when you select lead, you've got all of those data extensions that are attached to lead that are available that were into the right of that. So we don't have to go another level down. We are going to be just using lead. And if you scroll down, let's go to status. We're going to pull over that status field. Yep, let's drag that status field over. Perfect. So now we are bringing over lead data. We're bringing over data from the Salesforce CRM environment. It's getting refreshed every 15 minutes. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this for this use case. You could be fine here because there is a one-to-one relationship between the lead ID, the contact key, and the lead ID in the synchronized data extension. But we're going to sort of go the best practice on how you want to make that one-to-one relationship when you do have a one-to-many relationship. So if you hit that add an attribute to compare box, what this allows you to do is say, I want to match the lead ID in Salesforce CRM with the lead ID in the Journey data extension. So if you go over back and we're going to arrow back, or if you go to that little home screen, I think it's going to bring you all the way back to home. Yep. So we're going to go to Journey data and we're going to go into that. And then we need to find the ID in our data extension that is the lead ID. In this case, it's the subscriber key. So if you bring that subscriber key and drag that over into that space, perfect. So that's how you make that one-to-one relationship. Once you've got that one-to-one relationship, you can just go into the lead synchronized data extension through that attribute, and you can use all of those fields. So always remember that to make that one-to-one relationship when you're making that connection. And one thing to point out, you always do the contact data on the left. Contact data on the left when you make that relationship. On the right is the Journey data. Okay, so let's hit done. Nicely done, Jatin.
I'm just curious, we have to do status equal to subscriber key. Is that what we use?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. That's a great point. Let's hit cancel. We want to do, thank you. We want to go, let's go back to let's go back to the contact data. We want the actual ID instead of the status. So great call. So let's scroll back up to that. Yep. Right. Yep. Perfect. Go to lead. And then the ID has the field. Yes. Thank you, Jatin. Great point. That's weird. Why is it not allowing me to do that? Try hitting summary or try hitting cancel. Sometimes it does time out. Awesome, hit done. Now we can go in, if you go back to the home screen, now we can go in and add the status. Yep, contact data. Now you can access all of these fields once you've made that one-to-one relationship. Now let's go down to status. Yep, and then we want that to be open.
Is there an open or contacted?
Open would be great. We're gonna, you're as contacted, you're gonna fall out of the journey. Everyone else should be
Got it.
perfect. Yep, and we can hit done. We can hit summary. And yep, we could say status equals open. And then in the remainder, just so that we know, let's, instead of in that pencil for the remainder, let's just say status not open, something like that. And Lakshmi, it's not mandatory to add the attribute to compare checkbox when you're checking contact data, but I think it's best practice. Like if you're always doing that, then when you encounter a scenario where you have a one-to-many relationship, I'll give you an example of a one-to-many relationship. Campaign member is a good one, right? A campaign member ID, if you're looking for the status on a campaign member ID, you're going to want to make that one-to-one relationship for that campaign member with the one in the journey, because the subscriber that's associated with that campaign member ID could be, that subscriber, that lead ID could be in multiple campaigns. So if you're always setting up that one-to-one relationship, then you won't hit that moment where you're like, hey, why isn't this journey working? Why have I changed the status of this campaign member? Why aren't they being kicked out? It can save you some tech debt down the road. Okay, awesome. Let's hit done. Let's hit save. It's always good to save. Excellent. All right, and then let's, because we're sort of getting close to time, we've done a lot of work here. We're going to do a little bit of deleting here, just so that we can run some of these journey members in. Yeah, let's delete that email. We're going to delete all of those emails because they need to be configured. Let's delete that email. Yeah, we can delete the wait step there. We can, now let's add a join to the warm path. So if you scroll down to the flow activities, and yep, the join, we're going to add that right after, I think probably that wait step on the warm path. And right after on that warm path, there, perfect. And let's add that drag to join up to the hot path. So if you click on that, yep, and then you bring that up, perfect. That's anywhere on there is fine. Perfect. And then let's delete the update lead and the update create task for now. We can add that in a second if we have time. And let's delete the create task. Okay. Let's change the 1 day on the top journey to 1 minute. Yep. Perfect. Let's change that, yep, to 1 minute. Okay. And then you can leave that. I think we won't have anybody on there. Let's hit save. Okay. And, you know, I think we also talked about this in a session. When you're standing up some complexity in your journey, sometimes it's helpful just to build it in parts. Since we are getting close on time, we want to send some subscribers through this journey to see them go down those different paths and maybe to see that decision split work as expected. So let's go into journey settings, and we can, I think that's the one thing we need to do is just set the, so I'm sorry, it's the light bulb. Yep, and if you click on that cog icon, we'll take you in there and we'll go to journey settings. We'll do re-entry only after exiting on this one. And let's hit done. We won't have to worry about the entry source for right now. Let's hit save. Okay, let's hit validate to see if it's going to allow us to activate, see if it's going to throw any errors beyond the fact that our wait steps are smaller than the recommended wait steps, missing message activity. So it all looks good. Before we activate this, let's go back to the automation. And let's activate. I think you could hit save and then we can activate it. Let's hit active. Perfect. Let's go back to the journey. And now let's activate this journey. And just to note, you can see the data extension has 3 records. When we activate this journey, it is not going to feed those records in. So you can hit activate. It's kind of deceiving, right? You'd sort of assume that those 3 records are going to be sent in, but we need to run the automation. You'll see the journey activity populate in the automation in order for them to be fired in the journey. So it's always good to notice that when you're standing up this journey, it's always good in that data extension. You don't want to have your full send, like say you have 1 million records in there, you're activating your journey. You might just want to modify your query so you only have a test set in there just in case, but it won't send them through. Okay, fantastic. Let's go back to the automation. Let's hit refresh on your, in that right next to that, refresh your browser. And we should hopefully see the journey activity appear on this canvas. There it is. There's that journey activity. So I think we covered this in an earlier session. Some think that you could just use that fire event over there on the left to fire a journey. It doesn't work. This is the only way to get a automation to connect with the journey. And that's the way you have to do it. Does the automation have to be on? Not necessarily. You know, as long as you've connected it, it's just best practice to automate your journey, turn on your automation, activate your journey, and then it'll appear on the canvas. So since we are just testing, Jetin, let's hit pause on that. So since we are testing, we don't want this to keep feeding them through. Now you have full control for testing of your journey. You can just modify that query however you like. You can run once, you can just populate the data extension, you can send them through the journey, you can do all of that you know, in full control. So since you've already run the data extension and we've validated those records that are in, let's try running this once and let's send through all of those subscribers into the journey. We should have a hot, warm, and cold path. So yeah, we're going to select them both. Perfect. Let's hit run. Awesome. And then if you hit the activity tab, we can, so yeah, I think if you hit that, try hitting save there. So in the, yeah, it may not save because it's running. If you hit the activity tab just to the right of the workflow, so in Automation Studio, yeah. And then if you hit the refresh button over there on the right, there's a, should hopefully, yep. So you can see it's running. You can hit that refresh button again, and hopefully we'll see some activity there. Cool. So sort of like waiting for paint to dry. Once we get the subscribers in the journey so that we can validate the functionality, and then we can add, yep, so it's doing its thing. Awesome. Let's go to the data extension. Well, yeah, let's see that. That should fire. Perfect. Let's go to the journey itself. Let's go see that they've entered in the journey. So if you hit view event results, the blue, right under the data extension, there's a little view event results. It sort of gives you a sneak peek. Nothing yet. So while we're waiting on that, let's go to the data extension tab. Yep. And then if you go back one to the blue folder, the junior, yep. This is what I kind of like about Email Studio. You can just go back one folder, and then if you click into that data extension again, it refreshes the data versus in Content Builder, you have to refresh and navigate to it. Kind of why I like using Email Studio for data extension sometimes. And let's go into the records. Let's just take a look at the data. Again, because this is what's going to what we just had set up, or the path that they're going to be going through. So we've got the hot, warm, and cold path. And now we can see the status that Jatin had changed on that lead. So in this example, he would normally come through as open, right? We just had to simulate this. This would have to be, you know, maybe like a week or two later as they're throughout the journey. So that's why you'll see that. So that should work with the Salesforce data in the decision split. Kind of deceiving because it's in the journey data, but that's why that got pulled in, because it was synced down anyways. So let's go back to the journey. Let's take a look at that journey. Let's go and let's try refreshing, see if we see some entrance into the journey. Yeah, try hitting refreshing the browser. Let's see if that works. And then let's hit view event results. Huh, no entrance. Interesting. Wonder why that didn't work. Let's cancel out of that. Let's create a new version. So if you go over to the right next to the blue button, let's hit new version. Yep. And let's activate this journey. Sometimes it might not work because of the version that we had created. Let's hit activate. Yeah, let's hit activate. Yeah, perfect. And let's go back to the automation. And let's go back to the workflow tab. Let's hit run once. And select all activities. Yep. And let's hit run. Okay. So while we're waiting for this to work, let's go back to the journey. Let's create a new version. And let's just talk about versions. So if you click on the arrow on version 3, it's going to give you a window of the 3 different versions. And JB had covered this. So, you know, version 1 we had created, I think maybe because we had created a shell journey, sometimes you might need to create another version and activate it. So it should work then, but we'll check that in a second. When you create a new version and you activate it, that becomes the running version, which is version 2. The previous version goes into finishing. So what does finishing mean is that all of your entrants are in that journey. We didn't have any, but say you have a journey that's, you know, 3 months, you know, down the road. Those journey entrants will stay in that journey and continue on throughout their path as expected. Any new entrants in the journey will go into version number 2. And then whenever you create a new draft, new version, it's in draft mode. So you can edit that. Nothing's going to change, not going to impact anything until you activate that journey. That's when it becomes running. Let's go back to the automation. Let's go check and see if it ran. It ran. Let's go back to the journey. Let's go to version number 2. Click on there. So let's click the event results. Still nothing. Interesting. Why is that not working? All right, well, we might, let's see, the subscriber. So, and we have no way in Journey Builder to, you know what, let's go into Journey History and see if there's any history for this journey. So if you go up to History, So if you go to the right where Journey Builder is in the top, yeah, perfect. So no events. You can't really see anything on this end, which is interesting. Nothing has appeared, which is fine. That makes sense. Let's go back to that journey.
Can we just see the data extension or the schedule?
Yeah, what if you remove the schedule and re-add it again?
Okay, we could do that. Let's we click on the X button there, and yeah, I think we might have to delete the date extension altogether in order for it to change the
Click on
schedule.
the top.
Yeah, and you'd have to do that in the new version. So, okay, let's
Draft.
let's try one more thing, because it may be because we had built this journey and then we sort of did it again. Jatin, let's go to the journey dashboard, the blue journey dashboard in the upper left-hand corner. We're going to create a new journey and just feed in this date extension. So if you go.
So Tim, I see something in the comments. Is this journey triggered by the automation, Tim?
Yes, it's tied to an automation.
Then
but that
the
is
schedule will
automated.
be set as per that. Once we activate the journey, this will get added here. And then the schedule of the journey will be determined by this automation, right?
Correct. I mean, usually you should be able to, and this is how we normally do this. Because it hit that journey activity, the green activity, it showed that it should have fired them into the journey. You don't have to keep the automation, running. You can run once and fire them through, so that's not a problem. So I'm kind of curious why it didn't work, and it might be something we might research on our end and bring this back to the hands-on session next week. Why this didn't work.
But if we go to the workflow activities.
Yeah, it's paused. I would activate it. There's only 3 people in there.
Right, I missed some of the steps in here, Tim. I had to step away. So I'm looking some of the comments here in the chat. So you might have said the re-entry, no re-entry setting. Is that the reason it's limiting? It's preventing the contacts from entering the journey?
Yeah, let's go take a look at that. What our settings were. That's a good question. So if we go back to, I think if you go to the journey up in the left where it says, if you click on there, it might bring you back to the journey. Awesome. And then if you go to the cog wheel, and go to journey settings. So it's reentry only after exiting. And we actually, none of these subscribers have entered this journey. We actually haven't had anyone enter it. So that should work. I mean, there's a possibility that it might have, because we created this journey, we added email activities and we deleted it. It might be, looking for those data points, possibly. We'll do a little bit of exploring as to why that didn't work. That might be the cause, because the journey activity is, you can activate that, sure.
Could you pass the journey and enable, so that way it will automatically take in that?
We could pause the journey. So if you go back to journey settings real quick, I just want to just check something.
And activate.
And okay. So it's saying that use email attribute from entry source email. So it might have set that because we added that email activity. So that might be the reason as well. but this is a good, good thing to troubleshoot. We'll do a little bit research on our end, and we might just need to rebuild this journey because we had sort of built it and then, added the date extension, deleted the date extension. We added activities, we deleted activities. But typically, you don't need to have the automation running. You can do a run once, and you can fire people into the journey. So maybe in our next session, we'll delete the activity in the automation. We'll set up a simpler journey where it just has those paths and get that running first to get them fed into the journey, and then we'll add the complexity a little bit later. Sort of jumped the gun on that, so my apologies on that side of it. But this is a really good use case in that Journey Builder sometimes there's a process of how you build things. I think I covered in the Salesforce data entry event. Usually that's the challenge, is pulling in subscribers from a Salesforce data entry event. Usually for data extensions, pretty straightforward. But if we can see in this use case, it's not. There's something that's preventing them to go in. And then there's no real error that's provided, right? It doesn't say, this is the reason why you're not able to enter it. It's showing from the automation that the activity worked. It should work. We've set this up this way in the past, so it'll be a good use case to explain or try to troubleshoot why it didn't work. So we'll cover that in the next session.
Can it be the reason that we have selected only evaluate new records only? So those records were already present in the data extension, and rather than we can select evaluate all contacts.
That's a great question. It should work because we had set the setting to evaluate new records upon activation. And so we had, we had activated it, and, that's possible but we usually will set that, and once it was activated, you should be able, because we did create another version and activate another version and still try to feed them through, and it didn't come through.
Yeah,
So
but the records
that's a
were
good
already
question.
present in the next versions, actually. So those would be already evaluated, or I mean, those would already be existing records. That could be the possible reason behind.
Okay, no, that's a good thought. Let's try that if we have a minute. So Jatin, if you go to the date extension. In the date extension tab that you have, well, I wonder if we might have lost him. I know he's still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
sorry.
perfect. Sorry. If you go to records,
Yeah,
and let's clear out this data. Okay, let's go back to the journey. Let's refresh the journey. And that should show the 0 records in the data extension. Okay, and let's create a new version. And let's activate that.
Before doing that, can we change that evaluations for evaluate all the records?
Sure. So if you hit X there, well, let's try activating this first to see if this will work. To do that, we would have to delete the date extension. Maybe it's not. Maybe we just delete the schedule. So let's go. Yeah. Now we're going to have to go back to the automation and run this once to see if we can feed them through. So if you pause the automation, yeah, and let's hit, it might be running actually. Huh. Because it might have just started running. Yeah, okay, automatically ran, perfect. That'll validate that as well. Let's go back to the journey real quick. Let's just test something. Can you delete this? So if you create a new version, and if you hover over schedule, yeah, and if you hover over date extension, yeah. So you can't, unfortunately, delete the schedule. You'd have to delete the date extension. If we have to replace the date extension, then we have to align the decision splits and all of that as well. So let's just see if we can get this to work without, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're deleting the date extension. Let's check that activity. We click on that activity and we refresh. Still doing its thing. So either way, in our next session, what we'll do is we'll try to dig in to figure out why this isn't working. And in our next session, we might build a simpler journey just to get these subscribers into the journey like we did on the Salesforce data entry. And it'll be good just to capture this use case, why this didn't work. Let's hit refresh one more time. Let's just see if we got the activity running. Okay, let's go back to the journey. Let's go back to the running version. Let's try hitting the entry event. Ha, that was it.
Yeah, it is done.
Great
Yeah.
job. Awesome. I've not encountered that. That's fascinating, but great job on that. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so let's refresh the journey. We should see those entries come in. We know they're coming in the journey. So now it's just waiting for the UI to work. So if you hit browser refresh, we'll start seeing hopefully them come to the journey. Hopefully we should see them go down those 3 separate paths. And then hopefully we'll see, yeah, sometimes it takes a second. And Jatin, if you go to the data extension, I just want to check for your record. I think you're a cold lead. And let's just, if you go back to the folder, let's just take a look at those records. Yeah, let's click back in again. I just want to see your, okay, good. You're a cold. So you should go down that cold path, that decision split. So you should go, let's see, we should have 3 people going on the separate path. In that cold path, you should be going down and not through, you should not be qualifying. Okay, let's refresh the screen. No, it's not because the automation was paused. It's because of the, okay, cool. Let's see what we got here. So we've got 3 paths so far that Jatin, I think you're in that wait step. So yeah, I mean, Lakshmi, to your question, I mean, we test this all the time where you set this up, you have it, you have the automation paused, you run once, you can fire them through the journey. It was Yash's comment that because those records were in that data extension at the time when the journey was activated, your best practice is before you activate, clear out your data extension, and then activate it, and then run your automation to feed them through. The reason why it works when you can pause the automation is that you can test this over and over again. You don't have to wait for the next hour for it to run. So we'll call that out if we have time in our next session. We'll do a side to proof that out, to that you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be on in order for it to work. You can see the activity, did populate for all of those examples. To Yash's point, they just got kicked out because they were already existing in the data extension. So let's try refreshing one more time. And maybe we'll see that. It's always waiting for these 1-minute steps. Okay, so you're in that. Yep, there we go. So there's that functionality. No, it's a little bit confusing because in the actual journey data, it showed that non-open status, but that's utilizing the Salesforce CRM data to kick out Jet in that use case, proving that out. So awesome session, great questions. It was so exciting to see this not work just as much as it was to see it work. We'll continue to build this out. Great crowdsourcing the solution on this. And then to Lakshmi's question, but to not, they never entered the journey correct. Yeah, that'll test this. Yep, good. Yeah, please do test this on your end. You should be able to fire in journeys from a paused automation if you've made that connection, because you should be able to test this over and over and over again. And we've encountered where we've done that setting where it's evaluate after activation and have not entered that, not encountered that issue, sending people through over and over and over again. So it's just kind of interesting, why that didn't work. But yeah, please do explore that, the unique details of, it's really for your QA testing, which we're going to cover in more detail in other sessions. Okay, let's see if I can answer more questions. Do we need to schedule in Journey Builder as we already have added in the automation? So when you connect to the automation, you have to create that schedule in order to make that connection. You add the date extension, then you have to fill out the automation, the schedule to connect it to the automation. Okay, well, Jatin, amazing job. Thank you so much. I know we have a lot to cover still. We'll continue to build this out in our next session. Hopefully we'll get people to join next time, and we'll find a new builder to continue the work that was done here today.
Thank you for your session.
Thanks, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of the week. See you tomorrow.
Thanks everyone. See you tomorrow. Yes. So we'll continue with the fundamental sessions. Bye. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Jatin.